Hello. Yes, it's the moment that we all dread. It's where my insanity really runs wild. And me, the minute eyes, unleash everything we've been arguing about going on in the world. Great. Now, I can't be bothered to go over everything at the same time, because I die inside. So instead, I'm just going to be talking about some stuff that's been going on in the industry that I love and care about. That is somehow lighting itself on fire in the most laughable ways at times. Sorry, I'm gonna hit myself. You see, let me just. I'm not gonna go into everything, not everything that's happening in the game industry. And I'm gonna go over some of it. Some of it, I will explain why I ain't touched that shit. Why I ain't even bring that shit up. So don't you worry if you're confused. You'll get your answer. Let me just start off with this. Okay? There I feel like there is a time and a place for where you need to say this. I'm going to say it now because it needs to be said. Just because I understand this doesn't mean I like it, doesn't mean I agree with it, doesn't mean I don't have, uh, things that point out how stupid the idea is. Okay? I'm just saying I understand it. That doesn't mean that I enjoy or like or tolerate it. It just means I begrudgingly and unlikely understand and yet still disagree with it. Okay, 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 okay. Here's the thing. When it comes down to it, the $80 pricing from Nintendo, I get. I said I get. I don't agree with in the slightest. Okay, let's get that straight. I get it. Okay, inflation's a douche nozzle. Here's the catch, though. You ultimately decide the price points. Ultimately, that is your decision. Which means if you have an understanding of the real world, you typically know to change your prices based off of where and what's actually feasible. Savvy, 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 savvy. Pretty much anyone could have told you that, right? But let's just move on. When it comes down to it, while inflation has increased, technically speaking, yes, that's true. Would I say that that justifies any game being 80 or above dollars? My answer isn't even a words. It's me laughing at you. No. In fact, if anything, it's batshit. It really is. You see, if you want to ensure your business doesn't have to rely on effed up tactics, manipulations, or doing any shady background crap, here's a great thing you can do. Adjust the price to what is feasible in each country based off of what is feasible in those countries. Does that mean lots of looking shit up? Yes. But if my dumbass can do it, I think you can too. Especially since you paid to do this stuff. So you should be able to do it. At least, if not on par, at least better than me at minimum. And yet here we are. Now, I'm not going to go into all the price hikes. There are a few different reasons. One, I honestly can't be bothered to trust, I'd say, a hard 90% of the big name when it comes down to people who do video game news. Worst among them would be IGN, who I honestly you cannot pay me enough money to trust with a rock, much less any game. They've given me countless evidence over the years on why, so I don't need to go into all of it. All of us know why. Those of us who actually know. Now, with that said, right now, for now, instead, I'm just going to point this out. If Nintendo is listening to this. They won't. And if they do, they'll probably try and DMCA me just for speaking, knowing them. But let me just say this. Uh, I'm going to put this bluntly at first, then I'm going to put it the more diplomatic and more expansive way, okay? Understand that this is just blunt for those who need it blunt, and there will be the actual non-blunt version for those who don't need it, okay? The blunt version is this. Bowser, you need to shut your pie hole for a little bit. You really need to. Like, I'm not saying that to attack you. I'm not saying that to threaten you. I'm just pointing out, you continuing with Corpo speak is a bad idea. A very bad idea. Oh my god. There's a time for Corpo speak. Then there's a time to shut the hell up and leave it to someone who can speak in a personal note. Time for the more diplomatic and expanded way to put it. Dear Bowser, dear Doug Bowser, I have good advice for you. I would find a Reggie-Fils-Aimé fast, my boy. Fast! The thing is that, honestly, right now, none of your discussions you're doing are helping anything. They're making things actively worse. Right about now, Corpo speak, talking solely about price hikes and money and give me is not what you need right now. You've done enough damage with that already, to the point of where, honestly, I'm slowly becoming concerned about the Switch 2's success. Now, for any stupid people who try claiming I want them to fail, you're a moron who's never met me, clearly. I have no brand loyalties. I want them all to exceed, damn it. I don't give a shit about what console. I want them all to succeed equally of their own merits. That includes Nintendo. I want them to succeed. The thing is that, honestly, right now, corpo speak and money talk is sure as shit not what's needed. Especially since you're already jacking up the price for the console. We know that's confirmed. We know that. And you're also there's talk of you not only raising the price of games in general, because we know you're not going to go below 70 or 60. We know that beyond a doubt. You can cut the bullshit there. You've never lowered a price for even some of your most bug-filled shit show games. We know you're not going to lower the price below anything base level. We know that. You've proven that. You've had chances for quite a while on Switch 2 to prove that you have some semblance of understanding of how to handle these situations. And you've proven that you fail miserably. Now, with that said, okay, it doesn't help. You've also proven that you can't be bothered to lower the cost of really old shit. Like, seriously, Fire Emblem Three Houses DLC is still locked behind a season pass that's still full price. No, really, I just checked it not long ago even. I even checked on Pokemon. Still the same price as when it was released, despite Scarlet Violet being... Yeah. The thing is, when there's already talk of you jacking up the digital price, then there's more talk of you jacking up the physical price. Then there's also talk of you jacking up the price for accessories. I'm just going to let you know something. Considering there's also talk that the drift might still be there, what you've basically done is ensure that the number of people who go to a third-party controller goes from a couple thousand, maybe into the 100,000s if we're being generous, to damn near everybody. That's what's going to happen if that drift is there. They're going to go to third-party controllers that don't have that problem. And they will never look at your stuff again for first-party controllers. Hopefully this won't be an issue in the Pro Controller like it was for me. Because yes, drift and desync was happening like a month after I got my Pro Controller. No, not better. No, not at all. No. Extremely better. It's with how much it was already costing then, and again, you can try and say inflation as much as you want. That doesn't immediately lock you into certain prices. You do that of your own accord. Now, inflation, will it affect? Can it affect? You betcha candy bacon derriere. Yes, it can affect. But ultimately, the one who decides the prices is you, the person who runs the project. It is you who own the rights to said project. Which means why you are jacking the price is actually laughable and honestly pretty stupid. Pretty stupid. Now some are going to say, but it's stronger, King. And yeah, but considering that it's in the end more or less the same price as buying the PS5 Pro for $1,000 no matter what I do, it's kind of the same price in the end. Because buying the new games, that's minimum of 60 to 70, possibly more, because we know that some games are going to be viewed as fuck you, give me more monies. Which hopefully they'll do that responsibly. Not like Psycho. Hopefully. We'll see. I will make no assumptions until the thing is in my hands. Okay, I ain't gonna make no assumptions till then. What I'm gonna say is, if that is the case, and they're jacking up the prices of accessories, which you're gonna have to buy, due to the fact that once again, there's talk of the drift still being there, you'll have to buy accessories. And unless you go to some third party who has enough brains to not have drift and desync ruining every single thing about a system, well, that means you're probably going with the first party stuff over and over again. Which is honestly financially retarded. Because if it's got drift, how long did they ever fix the Joy-Cons? Because I'm going to tell you right now, no, they didn't. I've had multiple Joy-Cons, and each one lasted me a month. I tried to get by with whatever I could till I could afford a new one. So basically, throughout the span of 2 years, I went from a Joy-Con for a month, busted. Technically, my Pro Controller was not functioning properly within a month as well. But I was trying to force and get my way till I had enough money built up to buy another Joy-Con, thinking maybe that'll work out. No, it didn't. It lasted me a month. So finally, around Christmas, beyond pissed off and having already sunk about $200-ish, if I remember correctly, because I think the Pro was 80, the Joy-Con was 60, I think it was, and the third Joy-Con was, I think, another 60. So like 200. I can't remember, just F it. So $200 later. Only for my problem not get resolved. Finally, I just said fuck Nintendo and got a third-party controller. And you know what's the thing? That controller still works 2 years later. 2 years later. Or is it 3 now? Like, seriously. It still works. Its only problem that it has is so minimum to the point of being laughable. The A button sometimes gets stuck. That's it. That literally is the only problem. Doesn't drift, doesn't desync. And the only other thing that, if someone wants to be nitpicky about, is that it can't start the system from a distance, but so I don't need it to do that. I need it to work. And it works. More than I could have asked from Nintendo multiple times. And again, I was already a year late, so this problem was already well known, heavily documented, and they could not be more aware of it if they tried by that point. And yet, repeatedly, none of it worked. Until I got a third party. If you think jacking up your prices for something that still has the same issues is going to reduce that, you're out your goddamn mind. No. No, that's going to do the radical opposite. The number of people who are going to switch to a third-party controller just out of irritation of the excessive price plus the fact that it's still drifting, That's going to cause people to leave, if anything. Now, this is all running off of the assumption. Okay, this is running off of an assumption. To be fair, there is for now, I have not found any concrete evidence of some stuff. Okay, I haven't. I'll be the first to admit that. But I am going to warn you that if they are matter of fact, that's their outcome. And I don't want that for Nintendo. I'm beyond willing to bet you don't want that for Nintendo. Even if you are someone right now who hate Nintendo, I'm willing to bet you don't truly want them to fail. You want them probably to do better, which they could do pretty easily and one-sidedly without any real effort on their end and pretty much at no cost because they make way too much money. Yeah. The thing is, okay, let me just run this by you real quick, okay? Just run these couple things by you. I, myself, despite my frustrations with Nintendo, I myself still, deep in my soul, want Nintendo to succeed because there's still that nugget of love. But right now, unfortunately, as things stand, unless Doug stops talking corpo and money, this is only going to get worse for the system and for himself, really. And no, let me just make this clear here. Quote, doing exactly what Don Matrick did is never a good business decision. That is business suicide. Why do you think he abandoned the company as quick as he could before it all got bad? You see my point. Yeah. No, you should never be doing the same things as Don Matrick. That's just... Ultimately, okay, from me to you, I want Nintendo to succeed. And I want Nintendo to succeed of their own merits, where they're at their strongest, where they're at their best, where they're shining the most. Costing the same amount as a PS5 Pro or possibly PS6, depending on pricing, then... Ugh. Sorry. Seeing the future based off present and past, and I don't like it. But when it comes down to it, a Switch, just for it to be playable, shouldn't cost almost $1,000 right off the bat. So I'm gonna tell you right now, jacking up the Joy-Con price, you're gonna have to buy multiples. They were already $60 or $70. I can't remember which anymore. Like I said, I haven't had to replace any for 2 years or more now, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, when it comes down to it, though, let's just assume, for the sake of it, just to keep our math simple, let's just say they jack it up to 80 for each accessory. Well, you know you're going to need to replace the controller multiple times. Now, how many times is depending on how much you want to be cruel, sadistic, and heartless and brutal to your wallet's butthole. That's up to you to decide. But 80, and let's just assume you have to get as many as I did, just to get by for almost a year. And even then, not because they were all functions, it's because you were stubborn and didn't have the money. So let's do some math here, okay? 80 plus 80 plus 80. How much that? 320. Wait, no, math bad. 80, 240. I'm sure I'll function someday. Anyways, there's 240. The console itself is looking like it's going to be at minimum roughly maybe $500 or so, not counting tax or shipping. Just the system itself. That's not counting the chat thing that they're charging you for pretty much out of the gate. That if you don't pay for, you can't use. Yes, an actual on the system feature you have to pay monthly for, from my understanding. Granted, even if they wind up saying it's not monthly, $20 for an on system feature is kind of bullshit. Kind of fucked up. But I digress. So 500 plus the 240, that is 740. That's not counting anything else. That is counting the base system and 3 controllers that probably honestly combined will only last you 3 months. Unless you and fight and stubbornly fight the thing blood, tooth, and nail. Otherwise, then maybe you'll get about 6 months before you're finally so pissed off and fed up to the point where you're just like F flipping the bird, saying F Nintendo and buying a third party product. Because it will work 10 times better, 10 times more efficiently, and you won't have to spend 80 every single month to replace the stupid shit. No, I'm not bitter. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like that $240 is all that much. No. Oh, wait. That's a fuck ton. That's a lot. Considering, especially the fact that, honestly, that alone can at times make it so that not just one, but multitudes of families out there, multiples of people out there can't touch your shit. Why? Too damn expensive. For them, it comes down to a matter of, okay, do I want to pay my rent or play this game? Do I want to eat or do I want to play this game? Do I want to pay my rent and pay for food and not have the system and not be able to play any games? Guess what happens when you put the prices that high? Your money goes down, not up. Why? Because fewer and fewer people can buy your system. This is going to shock the world. Or at least anybody who gives an F enough to watch this rambling video. But I'm going to blow your mind holes, ready? The reason why PS2 to this day is still the #1 most sold system, it's not rocket science. It isn't at all. It's pretty much common business sense. Reasonable pricing, plus respecting the customers, equals money. Let me give you a more expansive diagram for those of you who want a little extra hand-wavy mental picture, okay? You are a company. You want to make money. Well, you have a product. You want to sell it. Okay. Sell it for a reasonable price that isn't so high up to the point of where it starts to lower the number of people who can afford it, but also isn't so low that you're making nothing or worse, furthering your own debt. You need to find that sweet spot, because if you don't, your money decreases. And for plenty of companies, we've seen them when they start to see money decrease, because it's not a sudden huge hit, they start doing stupid shit. They start thinking, oh, this is nothing. We don't need to worry about this. Which then they start to double down on stupid shit. Which then decreases their money further. That's the cycle we're going here, okay? In order to actually consistently, without having stupid tactics being needed or greedy or outright shady tactics being needed either, it's about finding the right spot between the customer can afford, I need to make. You need to find the balance between that in order to consistently make profit off of your product. Now, quality of that product, oh, that has such a huge impact. Oh, dear Lord, that's such a huge impact. The problem is, though, is that if your price is way too damn high, your quality of that product could be through the moon. It won't matter because you've made it too high for anyone to actually get. See the problem? That's kind of a problem that Sony's been pulling and thinking they can get away with more and more aggressively every single console generation and every single freaking in-between console generation that they used to test people on if they can get away with it. Yeah. Guess what? Nintendo? No different. It's the same thing. They're testing. They're testing the waters and seeing what they can get away with, how much they can charge, how much you will scrape and basically bend over for. Now, I don't think this is done out of malice is my problem. I don't think Nintendo is doing this out of malice. I genuinely think it's basically a delusion that, and I've seen this in so many other development production studios already. I've seen it so many times that at this rate, I could almost get myself blackout drunk if I wanted and still pin it out of the crowd. It's a problem where you have this really high expectation that is not achievable in the real world. It can only be achieved in fantasy or in idealism. Now, some developers, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, I could go on, but I might as well just go for the biggest offender, which is Square Enix, are all beyond perfect examples of delusional goals that cannot be met no matter what. The facts are is that that's honestly why Square Enix is in the biggest trouble they're in right now. The facts are is their games haven't gotten dreadful again. It's just that their delusion has grown to the point of where now it is quite literally impossible for them to meet any expectations they have, and thus never fully succeed to the degree they're wanting, resulting them in them being unhappy and damaging what they can do further. Here it's not really all that different. The only difference really is that instead of it being software, it's hardware. But ultimately, same thing really. Like 1-for-1. Now, the funny thing is as things are going on, I keep cracking the same joke, but the saddest part is just how accurate this joke is. Right now, if Xbox wanted to not just pull a win out of nowhere, but damn near make every other company look like a disgrace, both in profit and in reputation, they couldn't have asked for a harder layup than this. They could not have asked for the most perfect setup possible. They couldn't. That's where things are at so far. Now, I don't know nothing about the next Xbox. I don't know nothing about it. I haven't looked into it at all. And honestly, my F's to give with how things have been looking is very little. Maybe that's because the cynical part of me is growing every time this idiotic crap happens. But I digress. When it comes down to it, honestly, this is the moment where, honestly, if Xbox wanted to get a win, they couldn't ask for better. Like, ever. They will never get another chance like this to not only get a huge, massive win over all their competition at once, but to also gain lots of good reputation. And that's not even counting the profits yet. That's just counting those things. Not even counting profits yet. Not even counting profits yet. At all. Not even remotely. Yeah. Like, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, it would almost be harder and 10 times more effort for Xbox to do worse than their competition right now. It would almost be harder to do that. But that's up to them and whether or not they have enough financial common sense to realize, oh, these motherfuckers dumb as hell. Look at it. Look at that shit. Look at that shit. Ah. That's the kind of state we're in right now. But the worst part about it is, I don't even know if I can be truly angry or pissed anymore. All I can muster is just confused, baffled, dumbfounded. Sometimes, in cases of certain things, an aneurysm will come by. But when it comes down to actual, like, emotions, that's the best I can do these days. It's gotten to that point. I lost count of how many times I've said to myself that this is painful to watch, as well as baffling and confusing to watch. How we got here, I'm honestly questioning. I feel like I got sidelined. I feel like I'm getting sidelined by something I never saw coming. Because I didn't think it was possible to arrive at where we're at now, where it's just so much of a mess to the point where it's not even anger or depression. It's just confusing on how we even got here at all. Like, I have been unwinding the entire past couple decades since I was a kid, trying to figure out the exact spots where things went to hell. And honestly, there are a couple things, but none of them seem bad enough to have resulted in any of what's going on now. What's going on now is just confusing. Especially since, again, it's almost harder to make some of these mistakes because they're so ingrained in other people making those mistakes that it's almost actively harder to repeat those mistakes. And yet here we are, where I have an aneurysm and I'm almost constantly confused and dumbfounded. Also, strangely and very disgustingly, feeling like I am some kind of business savant. I'm a clown. Why are you making me feel like I'm a savant? I'm a clown. I like being a clown. I'm not supposed to be a high bar. I'm supposed to be the low bar you easily pass. Easily. Hell, that's one of the skills of my entire family, really. Well, especially to be specific, my dad's side of the family. We are the low bar to pass. And yet, I feel like a savant. I feel like I am literally the Einstein of game industry at this rate. No, I should never feel that. That's wrong. That ugh. Just ugh. Gross. That's just wrongness. I should never, especially since I'm the first one to admit my shortcomings. I'm the first one to admit them. I'm probably damn well the last one to admit them. I have endless shortcomings as an individual, as an entity, as an it. And yet, I start to look good whenever I start to point out the obvious of why you do. You're just making things worse and harming business for nothing. Oh, there's aneurysm again. Thought about it for just a little too long. I think that is my cue to probably try and wrap this up. No, there's not going to be a part two. And no, I don't think my dumbfounded confusion is going to get better anytime soon from the looks of things. If anything, I can't escape this feeling it's only going to get worse from here. Somehow. I'd love to be wrong. I would pay to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But so far, my gut's been proven right by this a few times too many. Please let me be wrong. Like any business out there, please go out of your way to make me wrong, please. Pretty please. This is painful and drowning and confusing. I will see you all when I see you. Take care. Hope you laughed at me and laughed with me. um, I've decided what I'm gonna do. Uh, so throughout May, there's not gonna be really any videos. The reason why is just I'm gonna be focusing on spending time with my family. That's all it is. No worries. Once June comes around, I'll start making videos again. It's just I kind of after much argument, I kind of want to just spend the entirety of May, kind of just hanging out with friends, being with my girl, hanging out with family, stuff like that. Especially since I kind of feel bad because I'm always so heavily messed up mouth. I tried to say mental and health and made mouth. Cool. That's something now. That's a word. So yeah, when it comes to my mental and just overall health, I haven't been around my family as much. And I do kind of feel bad about that, especially since I really don't know what more to do to kind of stop it because I've tried everything other than horse tranquilizers. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been so frustrating at times that I have been tempted to see how much those would be. Is that sad? I feel like yes. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I just kind of think I'm gonna just try and spend the entirety of May kind of just trying to not do videos. What games I'm gonna play probably will be stuff that either can play with me and my family, or things I can very easily just stop and go walk away from whenever needed. Is all. That does mean, unfortunately, that reviews are going to take a while. I am working on one review. The problem is that, honestly, each time I do the review, I kind of have to redo it because it's not getting the right point across. So it might take me a little longer, and I do apologize for that. I was hoping it would be done by this Tuesday. So yeah. When it comes down to a Game and Returns 2 video, I'm in a rough spot of where I want to keep doing them. I'm going to keep doing them. But there are some games where I'm not sure anyone would be interested in. So I might just put up a poll to see like what you guys think. Uh, if you if you don't want to see either one of those two games, then just don't vote, and I'll know that. Okay, find a different one to work with. So you don't have to feel bad if you don't vote. Okay. Um, one thing I would love to do someday. It will be forever before I can actually do this on any fundamental level. I would love to put up like a kind of like a wheel, kind of like a big like full on bigger than friggin' guys TOC wheel level of just I want to add something like that so this way I can kind of add a little bit of a surprise element for whenever I do something like a stream or maybe for when I do gameplay recordings. Just kind of have it be completely randomized because I think that might make them a lot more interesting. And because I'm a dork, of course, I'll totally make a huge, giant, dorkish meal of the whole thing. And I do mean the full on doing over and over again. So yeah, it'll be full on game show level of wow, this is excessive. So yeah, I hope that maybe that'll kind of make things a little more interesting when it comes down to like the returns too, because I do kind of want to keep them going. I really do like doing them. I am thinking about some point maybe expanding them into more current games at some point. I just know that before I do that, I want to try and cover as much of my childhood as I can first before I go into the more current games. Because I'm going to tell you right now, anyone who knows me knows that honestly, if it was left to just regardless of passage of time, Trails of Cold Steel would have been on here repeatedly already for the returns too. Over and over again. So many times. But like I said, I want to first do my childhood because I feel like that's kind of what starts the returns, but also kind of adds the most like nostalgic, relatable fun for some people, and for some people it might not. Like I'm probably gonna do quite a few games, and honestly, probably next no one gives a shit about. Let's be real, no one cares. They're so old, and they were either so bad that they died when I was young, or they only got murdered afterwards. So it probably isn't gonna be like freaking groundbreaking and all that shit. But I figured I like the idea of kind of giving this nod to my childhood, especially since that's something I kind of wanted to do for when I have kids. Is I kind of want them to see like, ah, so this is why my dad's batshit. Now I know why he's completely batshit insane. He's always been like that. Shit. That means we're probably like that too. I kind of want the kids to be like, ah, so that's why you're insane. Good to know. Especially since I'm gonna tell you right now, I probably am gonna have my kids like play these, but more for like learning of where things started to how things got to where they are nowadays is kind of my thinking. I kind of want my kids to understand where things were, understand the accomplishments of where we've gotten, but I also want them to understand what's done right in the past and what's done wrong in the present. I kind of want to give them that knowledge, that understanding of how things have progressed and the way they have progressed and even why they have progressed the way they did. So yeah, this video wound up being longer than I wanted it to be, but to be fair, not by any as much as I was afraid. I was scared this was going to be an hour on the dot minimum. So yay. I'll see you all soon. See ya.